Hi, I'm Bob Butler from KCBS Radio in San Francisco. Welcome to a forum of candidates running for 3 seats on the Rodeo-Hercules Fire District Board. Today's forum is sponsored by the Contra Costa Elections Division, Contra Costa Television, the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley, and the League of Women Voters of West Contra Costa County. We're recording these roundtables here in the studios of Contra Costa Television. The candidates are here today: Ernie Wheeler, Damon Covington, and William Bill Prather. Also on the ballot but not here today are Steve Hill and Ron Artisoni. We drew lots before the show to determine the speaking order, so we'll start with Ernie Wheeler. How about a 1-minute opening statement?
I'm running for this office because I believe that the people of Rodeo-Hercules need a voice on the board that's going to protect their money and their interests.
Okay, Damon?
My name is Damon Covington. I am a 10-year veteran of Hercules, City of Hercules. I'm running for the board because I think what the board needs is a voice that's actually in the fire service right now. I've been with the Oakland Fire Department for 18 years. I serve in the capacity of captain right now. And I think that from what I've seen just in the board meetings, they could use a voice of reason when it comes to what the fire service is evolving into.
And Bill Prather.
I've been a member of the board for the last 24 years, ran successfully in 1994. We've accomplished quite a lot. We've had our down times recently. I think that we have the opportunity in a small district where 3 directors can move ahead, not behind, to make good things happen for our district. A lot of youngsters think that big is best. It's not always the case. Leadership counts, and those on the board, we need leadership. We've had some ups and downs, but I think that in the future, given your vote, we can make a difference.
So, Bill, the current financial status of the department, what are your thoughts about the current budget and where things stand for the department?
We're barely holding our own. Our citizens are to be commended. They passed Measure O, which gave us a parcel tax, which gave us funding. No other agency in the county will have that opportunity. The public is not going to go out and vote for things that aren't real. We're holding our own, but we have, we have an unfunded liability. All of us do, all of the districts that we need to attend to. If we don't attend to our unfunded liability, a lot of the youngsters today won't have a pension or a job.
Ernie, you're on the board. What are you doing to meet that unfunded liability of the pensions?
That's an issue, Bob, that has really bothered me since I've been on this board, because no matter what we've tried to look at, we can't seem to set money aside or identify money to turn that around. The issue that you're having is that we are so tight that we need to start looking at cutting back. An example is, right now we're paying between 85 to 86% of our budget goes for benefits and retirement. That exceeds the national standard of 80%. We have to cut back on those benefits and that in order to start putting some funding towards this unfunded liability of $23 million.
If you're paying 85% of your budget toward retirement, how are you paying salaries?
That includes the salaries and thank you for clarifying that. That includes the salaries and benefits of this district. It's between 85 to 86%.
Damon, you're a firefighter still. You're Oakland Fire Department, which I understand has a much higher unfunded liability problem.
Absolutely.
Being on the board as a firefighter today, how do you see yourself helping to change these things?
I welcome the opportunity because I want to be the voice of reason that is a citizen and a resident of Hercules, but I've served in a lot of different capacities for Oakland Fire Department, including some budgetary training, things of that nature. This problem that Hercules is having Hercules Rodeo Fire Department is having is the same problem that everyone's having. Again, Oakland is the same way. We're having huge problems with underfunded liability. It's something that industry-wide we have to address, but not on the backs of safety of the firefighter, the men and women of the Hercules Rodeo Fire Department. We can't put them in harm's way in order to save a buck, but we do have to be fiscally responsible at the same time. So these are issues that, you know, industry-wide we're having to tackle, and it's not going anywhere, and we've kind of kicked the can down the road for a lot of years, and now it's time to the check is coming due. So those are things we have to address.
Bill, we're getting into the height of the fire season. Rodeo-Hercules, there are lots of open space there. You have a lot of refineries. How do you handle all that?
Same way we've handled it for the last 30 years. We respond. I've seen downtimes in our district where we responded with 2 employees in each station. We've had good times, we've had not so good times. Right now, we're doing okay. What we have to look at is our response with Battalion 7. We need to look at how we can enhance our reserve program. When we talk about firefighter safety, I can't separate public safety and firefighter safety. I'm a retired fire captain out of the city of Richmond. Back in the day, and I know it's old school, I was hired in right after they discovered fire, so that's a long time ago. But what we have to do is look to the past to find out our solutions in the future. A reserve program is the solution to our problems.
Can you afford one?
Pardon?
Can you afford one?
We can't afford not to. We can't afford not to.
So you're retired. You sit on the. Do you have anything else that you do besides the board? I mean, how does your current position fit with your current responsibilities on the board?
I just retired from 40 years in real estate. There's a big difference between real estate and fire service that I found out the hard way. But I've always been involved in fire service. That was my life. A lot of people thought of it as just a job. Some people thought of it as a career. For me, it was a calling. I think very little of anything else other than the fire service and how we can do better. A lot of my ideas go back to Richmond. I was ahead of my time for a lot of the thinking. I was retired too early. Should have been drill master. Things would have been different.
I see.
Guaranteed.
Ernie, you've been on the board for 4 years, but you've been around, I understand, for a lot longer than that, correct?
We moved into Hercules 6 years ago now, in September. As far as the fire service for myself, I've carried a badge for over 64 years. I am still involved in the National Disaster Operations Team. In fact, I'm on standby right now to go east. I work for a private company that has contracts with DHS. I have actually worked for DHS/FEMA. I was on their original ERT A team, which is their Type 1 Incident Command team. I was their safety officer. I teach for them at the National Academy. I was on focus groups. I've taught down at the Center for Domestic Preparedness, Terrorism, and Hostile Emergency Training Center. So my background has been very extensive. I'm still heavily involved in some form or another. I've gone now to the private sector, and we work under contract to the government agencies and that. So that's where I'm coming from with this whole thing.
Yeah. I understand that the board meetings can get quite lively at times. What can you do to make sure that they aren't as lively and you get things done as a board member?
I think the board has done quite well in the last 4 years, to be honest with you. I think it's a very good extension of the people and the conversations. Now, I know there's some people that don't like some of the questions I ask, but I look at it this way. I was put on the board to ask the hard questions and get the hard answers. And I'm not going to back off from that. I've always been one that I go where people won't go, because I think the people deserve to know what is going on.
What does the board do best right now? What do they do right?
They're serving the people.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Damon, you said you've gone to board meetings. What do you think could change with you on the board?
I would be a reference point because in the meetings that I've gone to, the rank and file of the fire department is not in line with, and for the chief for that matter, is not in line with what the board is pushing forward. And the board and the Hercules Rodeo Fire Board has a lot of power over what goes on from the day-to-day operations of the Hercules Fire Department. And without having been a firefighter, and these two gentlemen have served, you know, in the fire service and other parts of the fire service, but it's different from being in the firehouse every day and understanding the stresses that the day brings, the challenges that the day brings, not having, you know, the correct apparatus or not having the day-to-day tools that we need to be successful. So I understand that aspect of it, and I also understand the budgetary aspect of that you can't ask the citizens to continue to shell out money after money after money after money into an endless pit because of the demands of the fire service.
Bill, do you think the board has too much power?
No. I think we have the power to create a fire-safe community, an emergency-safe community. What we have is the opportunity as a small district. Big doesn't make best. We have the opportunity in a smaller district where 3 votes on the board can move us forward. We need to be more efficient with the citizens' dollars. The taxpayers have given us something that no one else will get, a successful parcel tax, and heed my words on that. We have to take those monies and be efficient with them. If it changes staffing, so be it. If it changes apparatus, so be it. I've been around a long time, and yes, people refer to me as old. I can't deny that when my dad comes and watches me shave every morning. So, with my old age comes great experience. We need to be more efficient in the future. The past won't work any longer.
Do you think, I've heard Mr. Covington say that the board has too much power, that the chief doesn't have enough power. Does the chief have what he needs to get the job done? Does he need to have more of a say in this, Ernie?
I think there needs to be a separation of powers, and I think that's where the issue has come here. The board is responsible for the money, period. The chief is responsible for the day-to-day operations. And my feelings are, with my experience, and believe me, I have worked every aspect of the fire service you can look at. We need to keep that separation. And it is the board's responsibility, if you look at what the board's actual directions are, is to control the finances of the district. That means we got to make the finances decisions that most people don't want to make. The chief's job is to work within those parameters. And in some cases, I don't feel that that's transpiring right, because we need to have control of that money. If not, you're going to have a runaway. And I'm sorry, this district is not a Cadillac fire district, and we do not need to be a Cadillac fire district.
How do you know that the board's doing the right thing?
Say that again?
How do you know that the board's policies are effective and are being carried out the way that you want them to? Are they?
I guess it would have to be the perspective of how each person looks at that. My perspective is, and this is my personal perspective, I think it could be done better.
In which way?
Communications, more transparency, putting the financial records that is requested by the board on the table that we can look at and say, yes, these records show what's really is transpiring with our money. But when you get documentation month after month that always changes, I have no faith in the numbers at this point.
Where are the numbers coming from?
Well, supposedly they're coming out of our finance record program, but they don't match. One month I'm told this number is what we get, and then we're told, well, next month it's, oh, well, that was a projection. Wait a minute, I don't need projections. I need to know what the true numbers are at that point when you pull them. Now, I agree, you can't say, okay, this is the number. Yes, today is that number. That's what I need to see. I need to see numbers I can sit and say, okay, that's what we've spent. This is what's left. But I don't have that confidence right now.
Bill, do you see a problem in getting the numbers that Ernie's talking about?
We've had trouble for quite some time, and it puzzles me that they're not more available.
Is it a board function to provide those numbers or a staff function?
Staff's function to provide the numbers.
So you think there's an issue with the staff?
Yeah, you'd say so, yeah. And it's been going on. The board has changed. I sat on the board when I was the lone vote, no vote, for a lot of things that I didn't consider right for our district. We've been through some real headaches. And I have a pretty good following in Hercules, and the feedback I get from them, they're happy with what the board is doing at this time. They want us to continue doing the money management. That's the key. We have to thank those that gave us our vote and never forget them. Then we need to take care of business at the board level. We need to make changes to make us more efficient in doing our job, period.
Damon, hearing what they're saying about the staff not providing the numbers that they want, the proper information, how can you change that?
Again, correspondence, transparency, better communication, more defined delineation of who's the roles and responsibilities of each person. Every person on the board has a responsibility, just like every person on staff has a responsibility. In the meetings that I've attended, which have been quite a few, it's a little bit more chaotic than I think it needs to be, and there's a air of contention between staff and the board, and again, we serve the citizens of Hercules and Rodeo, and that has to be put to the forefront, not our personal agendas, not how we personally feel, but what's going to move the needle forward, especially in these trying times, these trying financial times. We really have to be more efficient and more streamlined in what we're trying to get accomplished. The board only meets once a month, so we really don't have a lot of time to deal with, contention.
What is the board's, when the board does meet, what kind of things do you do? I mean, I know I've been on boards myself. Yeah. The board basically is the governing body of the organization. Right. So if you're having a meeting once a month, do you get what you need? It's not like you're not getting what you need from the staff at these meetings.
We get pretty much what we need. We find out what's happened in the prior month. We find out our runs. We find out the finances. We go through ideas. Sometimes it's a little difficult to get ideas through because it takes a little time. Change is hard in the fire service, very hard. So what we do is we try to have a goal, a focus on the future. I think we've done a pretty good job. I know that a lot of the employees are not happy with certain things, and they want to go to Contra. There's no secret about that. They think big is the best, and it's not. It's hard to tell them that, but the grass is always greener. But we can be a superior agency with needed change to make us efficient, and it's going to take some real change.
Ernie, do you think, is there a staff retention problem there with the district?
Is there a what?
A staff retention problem? Are people wanting to, Bill said they want to leave to go to Contra. Are people leaving to do that?
Now, let me clarify that. It's not that the people want to go to Contra. What they want to do is to take the whole district to Contra. But the problem is Contra doesn't really want the whole district. What they want is to siphon the money off and have control of it and keep the board in place. Because if we actually take and we're to consolidate totally into Contra all of the tax measures that are on the homeowners of Rodeo and Hercules at this point would go away. Which means then the only tax that Contra would have on us would be the county taxes. But if they were able to take and it's not a consolidation, I forget there's a specific term they use for it. Basically is they run the operation, they run the staffing, and we keep a board in place strictly to maintain those tax measures. I'm against that. To me, if we're going to do that, we might as well maintain our own separate fire department. If they want to take us totally over, then fine, let's put it to the vote of the people, because that's what it takes. Put it to the vote of the people. If they want to go totally to Contra, fine, and then the tax measures all go away and we only pay county taxes.
Yeah, there are a lot of districts have done that. I know, especially in Contra, Costa County. I mean, I live in Antioch. We used to have Antioch Fire, and now it's East Con Fire. Do you think that's an effective way of operating? Do you know enough about it to say yes or no?
Yeah, we've dealt with a lot of that with a department our size in Oakland. We're 26 stations, 550 people, and we've talked about maybe going to Alameda County at certain times. It all comes down to the financials. It's really hard for departments like Rodeo-Hercules, who are 1 and 2 station departments, or Pinole or El Cerrito. It's hard for them to remain a viable department because it costs so much money to run not just a fire department, but a police department, a public works, and all the different entities. It becomes financially a financial liability sometimes to do that. So that's why they're looking at their safety in numbers. When you start talking about cuts, and when you start talking about people leaving and going to other departments, and you talk about hiring and retirement and all the things that come with it, sometimes it seems like it's better to just be part of a bigger department so you can just be absorbed and not have to deal with those financial responsibilities alone.
I'm curious, when you have a multiple alarm fire, how much do you need mutual aid?
Well, when you need mutual aid, you call for it and you receive it.
But does it happen often? I mean,
No, not, well, when you're running manpower short, you get more second alarms just to get a number of people there. My contention is the fire service should make any emergency better by showing up. It's not a game, it's a very serious business. Firefighter safety is who you hire and how you train those hires. We have the future in our hands. We're going to have to do things different. We're going to have to go to a reserve program. We can't afford not to. A lot of paid professionals are against that. They say they're stealing our overtime. It's not their overtime. It's the citizens' tax money. We need change, real change.
Ernie, about the reserve program, I don't know a lot about that. Do you think it's a good idea?
Well, when I first came into the fire service, that's how I came in. And I came up through that. I think it's an extreme viable program. When I was running with the strike teams here in California in 60s and 70s, 90% of the crews on the fire lines then were volunteers manning OES units from Sacramento or from local departments. At that time, we could pull 2,500 engines with no effort. Nowadays, when they've gone to the basic paid firefighters and the volunteers have walked away, they're lucky to pull 1,800 engines. And that, to me, is sad. And part of the reason for that is that the unions put in place with the state a certain criteria that was required to be a volunteer. Well, I can tell you, most people can't be volunteers and meet the hours that they require. It's killing us. I don't have that much time to take all the training they require. Yeah. So it's killed the volunteer program.
Damon,
we need to change it.
Finally, on the reserve program, what do you think? Do you think it's a good idea?
I don't, and I'll tell you why. I do think it's a great opportunity for people to break into the fire service, but there's a humongous difference between a reserve firefighter and a professional paid firefighter. Not just in the type of people that you've hired, the backgrounds you've done, but the training they've received. Usually when you have a reserve fire service, a lot of its time is young people who are trying to get into the fire service, who don't have a lot of experience. They have limited training, and so to put them on the front line as frontline firefighters is dangerous, very dangerous. And to not back that up with paid professional firefighters who have the experience and have the knowledge to mitigate these incidents, it could be a disaster. I do think there is a place for the reserve fire service, and I do think that it can be a feeder into the fire service, but to have it stand alone as an auxiliary frontline fire department is very dangerous.
Well, I want to thank our candidates for answering some of these important and tough questions. Damon Covington, William Bill Prather, and Ernie Wheeler. Each candidate will now have 1 minute to make a closing statement. We'll start with Mr. Prather.
Mr. Prather, okay, am I on that TV?
Yes, sir.
In closing, I want to caution our citizens and voters of the possible takeover of the Rodeo-Hercules Fire Board by Local 1230. The 3 challengers are handpicked by Local 1230, and they are not concerned with our public safety. They desire to control the destiny of our small, independent fire district. On a 5-person board, 3 directors can lead our district to financial stability or not. The support of the 3 candidates chosen by 1230 and supported by the district's 21 employees is telling. Local 1230 represents most all fire employees in the county. They seem to be poised for a takeover of the various fire districts and merge under the control of Contra. Big does not make best. I do not believe that giving up local control of our fire district is in the best interest of the citizens of Rodeo and Hercules. Ask who benefits, 21 employees or you, the citizen of the Rodeo-Hercules Fire District. Be sure and vote.
Thank you. Mr. Wheeler.
The fire service has changed. There's no arguments about that. My concern is the money being properly accounted for and properly spent by the district? This isn't making any particular fire department better than one another. We have a unique system in our area. We have Battalion 7 that's made up of 5 different departments that automatically respond. We don't have a problem with firefighters. We don't have a problem with numbers. What we have a problem with is money. It is your money, the voters and the taxpayers' money. My job is to account for that money properly.
Thank you. That concludes our forum of the candidates running for the Rodeo-Hercules Fire District. Oh, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
You were so profound, I'm just like,
Oh, I think the fix is in.
go ahead, Damon. Mr. Covington.
I would just like to thank you for your time and the panel for showing up for this very important election. Again, I'm a 10-year resident of Hercules. I care about our community. This is a labor of love. You know, it's something that I'm passionate about in the fire service. I'm the only person who's running that is a current firefighter running for the board. And I'm doing it because the fire service is changing. How are we as residents of Hercules and Rodeo going to change with it? What's the financial viability? The finances are always at the forefront of the decisions we make, but public safety, firefighter safety, and the viability of our department moving forward is really what should matter. And I'm asking for your vote because I think I can help.
Thank you. And that does conclude our forum today for the candidates running for the Rodeo-Hercules Fire District in the November 6th general election. Once again, our candidates, Ernie Wheeler, Damon Covington, William Bill Prather, Steve Hill and Ron Artisoni are not here today, but they are on the ballot. For more information on this, on the candidates, visit the website votersedge.org. To view this broadcast online, go to cocovote.us. I'm Bob Butler from KCBS Radio. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to vote on November 6th. The deadline to register is October 22nd.